Are you a positive EV bettor using an origination model for the first time? Watch this video for some important information you must know if you want to be successful. Welcome to The Advantage. I'm A-Train Bets, and I use my brain to make bets. Now, in this video, we're going to go into depth about using an origination model, specifically my MLB model that I've recently made available. And it's because there's a lot of things that it's funny because we used to be the different people, the EV bettors. We're doing things differently. And now we're like, hey, let's do origination, which is kind of how people bet anyway. But we have to kind of flip our mindsets 180 degrees. And a lot of us in the early days of betting with an origination model struggle with that because we're hardwired to say green is good. Let's bet the big number. Thanks everybody out there who's created shitty software that just makes us do the same thing as 10,000 other people. That's the problem, is that we are here to find edge. We are here to find good bets. And if we just do a very simple, straightforward, this number is bigger strategy, how much edge do you think you're going to find when there's 10,000 other people doing exactly the same thing? That is not what we're here to do. So a lot of us have started working with origination models knowing that there's more edge to be found than just carving off price differentials from stupid books. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. They're fleecing suckers. Now, you might be able to fleece the sucker fleecers, but that's only going to get you so far. And so when you have a model that gives you a perspective that isn't readily available to everyone else, that's the whole point of a model, is to give you a unique perspective on what's likely to happen. Because we need to understand something. Before we get into the details of working with the model itself, what we need to understand is, first and foremost, what is a bet with edge, right? What is a bet with edge? A bet with edge is where we have a better price than the actual odds of the event occurring, or the side occurring in this case, would be, right? So if the true odds of it occurring are a coin flip at plus 100 and you're getting plus 110, that's a nice little bet you got there. Right? That's the whole idea. Can I get a better price than the true likelihood of something occurring? Now, when you do positive EV betting, what you're doing is saying, well, the market knows all. The market is efficient enough. I am going to just take the best prices I can find. And if they're good enough, I'm going to bet them with a degree of confidence that I'll have profit over the long term. You will. That's absolutely a thing that will work when you can find those plays. Now, here's the problem. We're getting a lot more liquidity and a lot more market efficiency and a lot more understanding from the books that these strategies are out there, and they're doing a better job of reacting to it. Not to mention, they're getting better at just reacting to market conditions themselves. So the old school, hey, Pinnacle knows all, when you see what's happened in the US, which does not allow Pinnacle, think about all the people that are providing information to other books that aren't Pinnacle, right? Pinnacle's great. Pinnacle gets a lot of the world's best action. Fine. But there are other places that have information from betting activity that are not Pinnacle, right? So understand, if you're a positive EV bettor, the world is changing around you and you need to figure out something new to do. And so a lot of people have arrived at creating models to see, hey, can I find a perspective of truth that the market doesn't appropriately reflect, and what can I do about it? So that's why we do model. Well, if you get a model and that model just says, hey, this number might be a discount. Do you want to just bet it blindly? No. No, you don't. That sounds like positive EV betting, but with something you just made up, right? The model is only as good as the inputs to it and the processing that it has. So we need to understand, where's a model good, where's a model not good, right? What is a model good at versus what is a market good at? Let's start with the market. So what's a market good at? Well, market's good at having a whole bunch of people's perspectives, bringing into the prices all that available information. Now, theoretically, that should equate to efficiency, which should mean that the markets are the best at setting prices. That would be the case, except their job is not to reflect truth. Their job is to fleece suckers. And what they've learned over the years is that reflecting truth isn't the best way to fleece the suckers. There are things out there that tend to happen that the prices in the market don't adequately reflect. Now, what are they really good at, though? Reacting to news. A lot of people react as quickly as they can. A lot of sharp bettors out there watching Twitter or whatever it is to find injuries and all that stuff. People react very quickly. The flip side of that, and something that the market is not very good at, is calibrating those reactions. And just like the stock market, the markets tend to overreact to everything, right? And then they'll settle in. So you see crazy news comes out, and it settles down. That's the problem and the benefit. So markets tend to overreact. People tend to overreact. Have you seen me? I overreact to everything, right? I ain't got to know that. That's why I have a model to help me chill. That's why I have a financial advisor. Be like, Mark, just keep me from being stupid. That's your job. He's like, I'm trying, man. Regardless, what you get from a model is less noise to news because it doesn't even bring in the news half the time, right? It doesn't even have that view. What it does is give you a sense of what's likely to happen, agnostic of some of the things that the market's best at. So we can use that to say, where is the market likely overreacting or underreacting, right? So those are the things that we need to be thinking about. Okay, so when we think about what is a model good at, well, model's very good at overcoming, at least the model that I've created, right? The model that I've created is good at saying, hey, based on future projections of what these players are likely to do, this is what on paper seems to make sense given the situational factors of the game, given the weather and all that stuff. Here's what a good baseline read is of what's likely to happen in today's game. And here's what's likely to happen, the total and the sides and stuff. Most of my model stuff is not focused. I don't have any player props in my baseball model, though I am thinking about it for my NHL model. But and we'll add player props next year for the baseball model, I'm sure. But the focus is on saying, okay, what are the situational factors about this game that might impact what otherwise would be likely to occur? Now, one of the things that the market's going to tend to do is overreact to recency. People tend to just remember what happened the last 3 days, right? Not what is happening over the course of the year and what is likely to happen going forward. I think a recent example could be Aaron Judge getting hurt. Well, the impact to the Yankees is obviously substantial, but you think about it in terms of how many at-bats does he get, what's his impact on each one, like all of that stuff, you'd realize that the market's probably going to overvalue the impact of an Aaron Judge injury in a way that might make it an opportunity to take the other side. Because a lot of the time the market's going to do the obvious thing quickly and probably too much of it. A model's going to kind of be that elastic that kind of pulls it back. And that's what I want you to think about when you're using my model especially, but probably models in general. I don't want to speak to anybody else's origination model, but for me, it's about understanding, hey, the market's overreacting. What's our baseline? What's the model baseline of what's likely to occur given a very standard approach to everybody's likely performance, right? Adjusted for news, adjusted for injuries, adjusted for what's likely to happen the rest of the year, not just what's happened so far this year. One of the worst things you can do in a model is to simply use what's happened so far and say, well, that's likely to continue. It's not. Stuff happens. You need to be able to react to that. So your model's got to be sophisticated enough to have some forward-looking projection to that. But we're not talking about building the model today. We're talking about how do we use a built model, whether we've built it or whether we've gotten it from me and using a trade station. So we'll show you how to do that. So just understand, model is good at kind of presenting a baseline. The markets are good at bringing in new information, but probably too much. All right, that's your high level. Okay, I want to bring up today's slate. So before you look at this, depending on when you see this bet may still be available. It won't be. These bets won't be available. But this is actually from a previous day's file, and that's where it's probably largely accurate to what we're going to see today in the model, but it's no longer finely tuned. It doesn't include today's lineup information or whatever. I think it has the pictures. Okay. So let's go into this. And so what this is this is a search that I have in A-Train Station. This is kind of the standard search I use. I'm not really hiding anything here. I just want you to be able to see this is what's going on. So what we have here is we have the Toronto Blue Jays and Baltimore Orioles, right? And what we have is I'm looking at everything. So when I see here, we're going to go through and I can see the entire game, right? And I'm looking at what are positive EV plays and negative EV plays, right? And the positive EV plays are not positive EV plays. They're not. This is not EV. This is not top down. What this is doing, and you have, like, this is the most important aspect of understanding how to work with a model is you have to understand these numbers here aren't real edge. What this is saying, where is the market likely discounted or at a premium to what our baseline model says is likely to occur? Okay, this is extremely important to understand because you can't bet at this like you would any other simple positive EV model. Because at the end of the day, you've got to remember what makes a winning bet. You got to win the bet, right? You have the best price on a losing bet all day, you go broke, right? So in using an origination model, you need to understand that now we are taking top-down analysis, which the station covers and uses that to help you find the best prices in the market, and all of that stuff is covered. But what we're now saying is, hey, let's get around some bet selection. Let's understand what's really happening in the context of this particular game, and let's attack it with a strategy that makes sense to us. So what I do, and this is my process, and I would encourage everyone to come up with their own process because my process takes too damn long. But I also built this model. I feel a certain responsibility to show people how to use it. That's why I'm doing this video, because people have gotten the model, and in full transparency, some people have gotten the model and had really tough starts to using it because they're using it like positive EV betting. And I can't stand it. I need to try to communicate more that this needs to change because it's about finding the right plays and recognize that, yes, you might have a discount or you might have a premium. Now, what you're going to see a lot of times, we know Sharp Sports Betting 101, I'm not telling you anything new. Markets tend to prefer overs. The public tends to prefer overs to unders. It's not a big surprise that you're going to see a lot of unders at the top of the list, right? Because the market systemically underrepresents unders, right? They lean to overs all the time because people would rather see things happen. This is basic stuff, right? So what you're going to see a lot of times is a lot of unders to play. And I think those are generally a good idea. You want to look at unders over overs because we know that the market's always biased a little bit. Okay, we've got first innings, we've had first 5 innings. I've had way more success with first innings than I'd like to think I do. I hate betting them, but I keep winning with them, and I'm like, shit, all right. So like this one would be very compelling. But what you have to look at here is you have to say, okay, what is the total context of this game that I have? And I always want to see all of the plays that the model creates, and we create 13,000 or so lines every day. And in this case, I want to see where are the negative EV plays. This isn't negative EV, right? It's negative EV as it's reflected in the station, but it's not negative EV in reality. What this is that what is the market putting a premium on? They think the Blue Jays are going to score runs. They think the Orioles are going to score runs. They think Baltimore is more likely to win than the model thinks Baltimore is likely to win. Does that mean that the market's wrong? No, that means the market has its own information. And I will tell you every single day, I'm taking some of these plays, not in every game, not in most games, but in some games I like to read. And one thing I will always do for baseball is I will always have this information up. Again, like this is too early. They don't even have the pitcher announced, and this game's coming up. You have, it's a double header game too. So that's the other thing that you have to watch out for, is to understand what's happening there. But anyway, so you see this and you could say, all right, well, what are the lineups? What are the pitchers? What's the ERAs? What do we know about this game? What time is it happening? Where is it being played? And it's not about saying, hey, what do I feel about it on top of the model? The model should give you a good baseline feel for things. What it's about, and this is the key thing that you have to learn if you want to be successful betting a model, and that is, where is the edge? Where's the market likely wrong here? Where have they likely overreacted or underreacted to something? It's not about, oh, there's 2.5 ERA pitchers going, I want to be on the under today. That sounds like a very square thing to do, doesn't it? That sounds like exactly what anybody who looked at the 2 ERAs would resolve to. So what do you expect? You're probably going to get signals to the over in the model because the under is so obvious. If it's so obvious, the market's more likely to overreact to it. So it's likely that the market is putting too much emphasis on it. Again, sports betting is not simply a set it and forget it game, no matter what anyone else will tell you. It is absolutely a puzzle. And each game, each bet potentially is a puzzle within itself. It's a series of nested puzzles. And your job is to get good deals, yes. But do you go to Kmart? Kmart doesn't even exist. I'm fucking old. Do you go to Kmart or Walmart, wherever runs specials? I don't think Walmart runs special. Terrible. You go to the grocery store and just buy everything on sale. They still have sales there. Do you go to the grocery store and just buy everything on sale? Of course not. Why would you do that in your sports betting, right? Why would you you don't need every play. You don't need every deal. What you need is the stuff you got to do to go make train dinner, right? That is what you need to get from the grocery store. And sometimes you buy the good stuff. Not usually if train's involved, but if, you don't need to impress me. But yeah, you get the $2 chuck from Trader Joe's, but that's good value. Right? So that's what I'm talking about. God, I'm old, man. Just dropping $2 chuck references. All right, whatever. So we've got the prices here. You've got to say, okay, well, how do I want to look at this? Now, one of the cool things that we do here in the station is that we give you the ability to look at things differently. And this is the one that I want to show you. So what this does is it first gives me the game by the event time. I also have group by game on, but it also has the name. So it goes by market. So you see how this is like straight up Christmas now? What that is showing where there's edge and when there's not edge and various plays. Now there's a lot of over under oscillation here. So you can see that's where the alternating is, but this gives you an opportunity to kind of see where is the market through a totally different way. If you have the model, you use the station, this is such an important way of breaking down this information when you're trying to understand, okay, what's that full data story? I've been talking about this for years. Understand that full data story that's being presented to you and then make your decisions. And so you come in and say, okay, I've looked at it this way. Now I find most of the time I'm using the event time EV listing just because it gives me the most mispriced plays first, and I'm going to be curious about that. Now, a play that I might be interested in making is the Blue Jays -2.5. So we're going to bring this up in the bet detail screen. I'm just show you that when I'm looking at this stuff, I don't use this screen a whole lot when I'm model betting, because what's it going to tell me? It's going to give me some sense of what books are available or what have you, but I'm already getting that market perspective by looking at what price I'm going to get versus what my no-vig line is here. And so the no-vig line is what the estimate from the model is. It's not really no-vig line technically, but it is a line that represents the best perspective of that model's truth, which is what a no-vig line is when you're devigging sportsbook odds, because we're guessing at what that line is. The benefit of a model is that the model tells you exactly what that line is instead of you having to infer that through devigging odds from sportsbooks. So there's a benefit to that because you can be a little bit more precise in this number at least. So there's less range. That's why you'll see in here, my model has me here and there's no gap in here. There's no range like what we have on the devigged odds for sportsbooks when we're doing top-down betting. But the cool part is you could actually bring it into a hybrid and have this alongside your top-down betting. I don't personally do it because I like keeping that stuff separate, but I would hope that some of the people who are getting the model experiment with that, because I think that's a good way to give you some understanding. It's like, okay, can I find something that is top-down good as well as supported by what the model is saying, as well as supported by anything else I can think about this game where there might be edge, right? So those are the things that I would be thinking about if I'm going down that path. Now, I try to keep those separate because I prefer to have those things clean and then bring it together in my head to decide what I'm going to do. But that's that. Now, one of the things that I do is this is the thing, the odds range -200 +200. That's going to be the area that you're going to want to tweak based on your risk profile. I've said to myself, I don't ever want to play something that the model thinks is more than a 2-to-1 dog, right? That's what this +200 says. And I don't want to play things that are too heavy favorites because I have to pay too much for it. So I'm paying too high of a premium. So a lot of times I'm going to steer away from things like this -192 here. I'm probably not going to play this. Would I play this under 6 in the first 5 innings? Yeah, I would. That would be something that I would be interested in. But I would definitely not just take the top 5 plays, top 10 plays of this list. That would not be a good idea, because these are the things that are likely to be highly correlated and where the model is likely to be wrong and the market's likely to be right. The market is directionally right a lot of the time. The question is, how do you want to merge the pricing where you get good deals on these, but the market's saying, wow, the overs are much more likely today? common pattern, but you want to be thoughtful about that. Maybe you agree. Maybe you're like, hey, of course the overs are going to be good today because of and here's why the market is undervaluing that still. What I find a lot of the time is when the market's saying this is likely to be an under game, like when Pittsburgh's playing and Skeens is pitching, like, of course it's going to be an under no matter what happens, right? But is it enough? Is the question you have to ask yourself. If the market's gotten to this point where like the unders are looking good to the point where the market's even on the under, and then you're like, well, did they go far enough on the thing that they don't tend to do as well? That's why you want to be very thoughtful about what you're playing, and you want to craft this down. So what I would do on these plays, I would literally go in and be like, I don't like laying 2.5 on this. I don't trust Toronto, even though the Orioles are hot garbage. I actually probably would play that one. First inning total, when it's top of the list, like, or near the top of the list, I'm really thinking about it. Looks like we have a pretty good edge here based on the model. That might be one I'd consider playing. Orioles runs under 3.5. They are hot garbage. Get a nice price premium here. Oh, you can't see that. See price premium here. And that's something that I would definitely consider. I like playing a mix of the first 5 and the total game because obviously in the first 5 might be the most predictive because you know that first starting pitcher for sure, and you know they're targeted to go in most cases 5 to 6 innings. Sometimes you've got openers starting, which kind of throws a monkey wrench into things. So just understand where those things may be less known and there may be possible edge, but you always have to, more than anything, you always have to be thinking, where might I find edge in this evaluation, and where might the market be overreacting or underreacting to something that they should be taking in better. And that's what a model gives you. It just gives you this additional perspective. It's not play all these are 20% edges. This is not how it goes. Don't if you're gonna ladder things, recognize the bet sizing, recognize whatever. I'm typically playing about 10 bets a game to try to get a nice portfolio, but it puts a lot at risk. I'm betting 700 a game right now. That's a lot for me, right? I've had good luck, I've had good success, but it comes with a fair amount of effort. I mean, you want to put in 10 bets a game for every baseball game on the docket. Well, you're talking, hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes. That's probably more than most people can afford in terms of time. All right. So keep that in mind. Think about your approach to this. Now, this is one where there's so many compelling green plays here. I'm probably just going to straight out, because keep in mind, there's an offset to every one of these. So I know that these, we've got a nice mix and I've got plenty of things to take action on. I'm probably going to get rid of these guys. I'm just going to hide them. And I kind of whittle this down to where I have however many plays I want to have on this game. And I say, this is how I'm going to attack this game. This is what I'm doing on it. And I kind of work this list down into something that I want. Like I'd probably cut this one. And I'd probably say, okay, 11.5, that's more runs than I want to play. But this first 5 under 6.5 is interesting to me because that's a pretty high first 5. And I'm not paying too much of a premium, right? I will play up higher at times, but it's not one that I have to. So again, these are just things to think about, but I wanted to put something else out there that could help people who are starting to work with models, especially the A-Train Station model. But the beauty is you don't need my model to use A-Train Station to kind of go through this process. Any model can be uploaded. You just put it in the right format, you upload it, and you can use that and just you. That's the whole point of A-Train Station, is that we customize your experience to whatever you want. Now, we provide a whole bunch of ways to start using it straight out of the box, which had been something that we didn't do a very good job of until recently. So we've heard our members and we've said, hey, here's a good place to get started as you're building your knowledge and skills. That's a great way to do it. But if you have a model that you've developed and you need a good way to do it, don't go use an odd screen and go hunting and pecking like it's 1985. Use the station where you upload that file and you get it in. We're going to actually make it so that your model, you could sell that model to other people if you want to as well. Because a lot of people just don't have the time or technical skills to build a model themselves, but want to be able to leverage this kind of information. And quite frankly, what I've learned from building a model, even though the economic theory behind it is that you should never share that model when you have privileged and unique information. The fact is, I can't bet it enough. I can't monetize it enough myself. And what I have to do now is teach people how to use this information, because otherwise it's going to be wasted in a totally different direction. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So hopefully you find this video helpful. The biggest advice, just don't ever set it and forget it with your sports betting. As soon as you do that, it's going to fall through your fingertips. It's like sand, right? Don't ignore any information, right? Don't ignore anything, but recognize that the game here is finding edge, finding more likely to win plays at good prices, and recognize that the market isn't perfectly efficient. It will overreact a lot of the time. It will underreact some of the time. And your job as an advantaged sports bettor is to figure out those times and say, hey, if the market's valuing something and it's the side that is probably going to win based on the totality of information that you're looking at, pay the damn premium. Play that. You want the winning bet. EV on losing bets doesn't make you money. Right. And now you're in a game where you're not just taking the best price, you are selectively choosing which plays to make. And that is the power of any model, but that is the power of the model and a train station, is that you can bring together top-down betting and bottom-up betting and origination betting in ways that you just can't with anything else. So hopefully we'll see you at the station. Hopefully this video is helpful no matter what tools you're using or what you're doing or what part of the journey you're in as a sports bettor. But we're just trying to put a good information out there, and hopefully you have better results, because these books will take every advantage and you need to fight back. So with that, for now, this train is leaving the station. Until next time, save the units for the bros and do your betting like the pros. The Day Train Station. We'll see you soon.